Hello, my name is Steve and creator-founder of ProLedger's desktop software and ProLedger online cloud-based software. Since we've released the cloud version of the program, I've been getting some questions from people who are asking, okay, what's the difference between the cloud and the desktop version? Should I be moving into the cloud, and what are the advantages? And this video, we're going to talk about some of those differences in terms of the features, and hopefully that'll make your decision a little easier. First of all, I want to say that if you're using the desktop program and you're happy with it and you'd rather stay with the desktop program, that's completely up to you, and you are certainly welcome to continue using it. But for some of you, you've been moving into cloud and realizing some of the advantages. This video might help you make that move or that decision. So let's dive right in and take a look at some of the main differences. First of all, in the cloud version of the program, you're going to notice a few differences from the desktop. And one is that in the cloud, you can have subcategories. So in the desktop version, you could have main expense categories or income categories, but you couldn't have subcategories. So for example, if you have a automotive expense category in the cloud version, under automotive expense category, you can have subcategories for parking, car wash, fuel and oil, and that sort of thing that you can track separately and still have total up under the main category name. So that's one advantage of cloud. Secondly, in the cloud, you do have the option to have the cost of goods sold if you want. I mean, it's optional, but you can have a cost of goods sold section in the cloud version, which wasn't offered in desktop. And the other thing about setup is that in the setup screen for the cloud version, you can drag and drop your category names anywhere you want on the list of categories just by drag and drop. So you can have, you can customize the sorting of those categories in the program. So let's just take a real quick look at some of that I just described to you. So when you go to the cloud version and you go to desktop, and let's say you want to go to your expenses, you'll see in our example here, auto is a main category name, but under that there's all these subcategory names, and you can drag and drop the subcategories, and you can drag and drop the main category names as well to reorder them on your list. And you want to create new subcategories, just click on that little plus sign and you can set that up there. And if you want to create new main category names, you use the little plus sign at the top corner or at the bottom to add a new main category expense name. So that gives you that flexibility. And as mentioned, there's a cost of goods sold section. So on the left side, you can have that there. And if you want to delete this, you hit the check box and just use the trash can and you can get rid of that. But that is there if you want it. And I mentioned already the drag and drop feature. So that's some of the things just in the setup screen. Secondly, there's the enter record screen that's a little different in the cloud version. In the cloud version, you can have multiple line entries, which means that if you have a receipt from a store and some of them relate to, let's say, an automotive expense and other ones relate to maybe office expense, then you can actually take that one receipt and apply it to different categories. In the desktop, you couldn't do that. You had to do two entries. So let me just show you that. So if you go to the cloud version and add a new expense entry, then you can just say, okay, let's say you bought something that was related to gas and oil, and it was $20. And on the right-hand side, you see what it says? It's got $20, and then if you choose the tax, you can choose that or not, but it breaks it down for you nicely. And then if you have another item on that receipt, you can choose on the right side, add another item, and then go ahead and keep adding. So now you got something like, let's say at the gas and oil, you also bought something that would be in terms of maintenance and repairs. Maybe you bought a light bulb for your car, for your tail light or something. So let's say that was $3. You could expense that separately. And on the right side, you see now we have two items, this item, and it all totals up to $23, and before tax is $21.90. So you could create that kind of entry, which you couldn't do in the desktop version. And the other thing is automation. In the ProLedger cloud account, a cloud version, you can automate things a little bit better. So if you have an entry you notice that if I just pick an expense category like gas and oil, it automatically will populate based on what I choose in the setup screen as my default. So it'll choose the account, which in this case is Visa. It'll choose the class. It'll choose the tax status of that item, and it'll make it very easy for you just simply to finish the entry by entering description and total. And even in description, there's you can populate the description field just by the drop-down menu, and these things are specific to the expense category. So if you have pre-written descriptions for other expense categories, they won't show up here. Only the pre-written descriptions for gas and oil will show up, which will make things a lot easier for you. Okay, so that's a couple of automation features on the enter record screen. Now, in terms of the reports, with the cloud version, the reports are clickable. So if I go back here now and choose reports, and I see an item here for print and direct mail, I can click on that. It'll show me the associated entries with that category on the report. So that's quite handy. The other thing would be when you're making reports, the cloud version has a more dynamic filtering system. So let me explain that. In the desktop version, you will either see all your entries on the report, or you could simply choose one of these accounts. Okay, let's say you want to see all your reports for your Visa, all your entries for the Visa account on the report. Now that worked on the desktop, but in the cloud version, you can say Visa, MasterCard. You can select multiple. These checkboxes aren't there on the desktop version, but here you can actually check off specifically what you want to show up on the report. And then as you do that, you see how the report populates the criteria. Like under accounts, it says MasterCard, Visa, and I could also do the dates, and I could also do the class the same way. Let's say I just want things that are for general business or project 1 or project 2. You can check the boxes that you want in terms of that report criteria. Okay, records management. Now, in terms of managing your data, the cloud version has a couple of features the desktop doesn't, and there's a bulk editor and there's a duplicate record finder. These are the two more popular enhancements in the cloud. So in terms of a bulk editor, if you have a bunch of entries, and on the desktop version, you have to make those edits one by one. But in the online program, the cloud version, let's say, for example, you wanted to change these 2 gas and oil receipts, and you thought to yourself, no, those weren't done by Visa, those were done by MasterCard. You could check off all the entries that you want to modify, and then go to, let's say, the account field and say, yeah, this was a MasterCard. So choose MasterCard, choose confirm, and you see how both those entries now have updated in bulk. So you can edit these entries in bulk by all the criteria listed on the bulk editing toolbar up there. And duplicate record finder, this is the ability to now find errors. So if you made the same entry over and over but missed it, instead of searching through potentially thousands of records to see if there's any duplicates, all you do is you go up to this search by box and choose duplicates, and let's just go back to see all the records, and then you choose duplicates. It'll thin out and just show you all the records that have the same date and the same amount. So for example, we have 3 entries, print and direct mail, for February 27th, all for $50. And then we have also 2 entries for February 15th for $80. So those came up as duplicates. Now you can choose now, of course, to just go through and delete with your bulk editor the 2 entries that are duplicated. But if you have an entry that is actually duplicated, but you want to accept that, in other words, in this example, you did actually buy gas twice on the same day for $80, then you could just check these and go to the duplicated box and say, these are not duplicated in error. And then that'll just eliminate that from the duplicates finder. So anyway, that's basically how the duplicate record finder works. File sharing. With the cloud version, you can add collaborators, and you can create workspaces so that you can have your accountant or bookkeeper access your bookkeeping files as a separate user. And so they have their own password to log in. So basically on the right hand side, you can go to workspaces and collaborators and invite people into your workspace, or you can be invited into somebody else's workspace. There's more videos on all these topics actually in the tutorials area of the website. And at the bottom left, you can click on tutorials and you can go and access more details on how these features actually work. But this is simply an introduction. And the API integration feature. Well, this cloud version has the ability for you to interconnect with over 6,000 other software application programs through a Zapier feature. And so when you go to the cloud version, you can go under Tools and choose the API key screen, and you can create a key and then use this key in Zapier to interconnect to different software programs. So for example, if you collect money using PayPal or Stripe or let's say Etsy, then you could actually have, whenever you make a sale, that data could come across into the bookkeeping program automatically. And so it's automatic data transfer between your software programs. Or if you want to use Square to do all your invoicing, you can go to Zapier and set up Square as an integration partner, and then all the invoices that you send out will come across here to ProLedger as automatically as bookkeeping entries. So anyway, you get the idea, and there's another video there on how to do that in more detail. Hosting, this is the old question: what's safer, to host in the cloud or to host on your own computer? And it's become a conversation that's a little bit like what's safer, flying in a commercial airplane or to drive in your car. And whenever there's a breach of data, the whole world seems to hear about it, but it's very, very rare. And whereas every week, every day, people are losing data because their computers are having viruses and so on. And statistically, it's becoming increasingly obvious in the data that it's much safer to have your data in a secured cloud account than it would be on your own device. And what we use is best-in-class Amazon online hosting service. So this is where ProLedger is hosted, and you can be rest assured that Amazon is very secure, and versus your computer, which can, every week I get calls and emails from people whose computer has failed and they lose data when they're using the desktop software. But in the online, that'll be a much safer environment. And of course, more convenient. And the environment is also isolated from anything that's going on your devices. So I hope that helps. A short video on some of the features. There's more, but these are some of the highlights, and hopefully it's helpful to you. Thanks for tuning in.